back with another video. Shit. What's poppin' YouTube? It's your boy Jay Wolf. There we go. Back with another video. And today we're gonna be reacting to Are You Scared of Your Roommate? And alright. This is gonna be a new series. Like this is a guarantee. It's gonna be a new series. I love these YouTubers. Now these YouTubers, if there's anybody that can make me creeped out, I promise you it's these two. Not only can they make me creeped out, they make me laugh. They funny as all hell. Be back real quick. I gotta do something real quick. But this is their new channel called Watcher. So if you wanna subscribe to them, I suggest you do subscribe to them. Anybody ever react to on this channel, subscribe to them. Because I feel like that's one of the reasons why I never really like reactions, but I'm obsessed with watching reactions, is because I feel like we taking other people's content, so like that's unfair. I don't think that's right. So I like to say I'm using it. I ain't taking it. I really couldn't come up with no ideas, and I was like, hey, why not react to something that can actually make me creeped out? It's nighttime. It's about 1 something, so like it's just dark. I'm tired as all hell, and so like, hey, who cares? Let's watch it. And I ain't gonna say anything, mainly because I don't know how since it's late. I ain't trying to be too loud. You get what I'm saying? And I don't know if y'all be able to hear it if I talk. So
this video contains content that some might find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Have you ever lost touch with a friend? It's funny the change that time can bring for a person, even someone you knew. But what if the transformation was so stark that your friend was basically unrecognizable? A metamorphosis so absolute that the life behind their once friendly eyes is now intrinsically different, perhaps even sinister or dangerous. For our narrator, how he answers that question may in turn change his life forever. I'm Ryan Bergara, and this is Are You Scared? A show where I tell my friend Shane Madej the internet's scariest stories that may or may not be true. Now, I have not read this story before, and neither has Shane. So lock your doors, turn off the lights, and let's see if...
Alright, the point of this, by the way, is also to find, you gotta figure out if the story is true or real. So leave in the comments before you watch it. If you get any comments, I mean, getting comments, but like, if you leave in the comments, leave beforehand if you think it's true or fake. I say in the middle of the story, so because I don't know, I get my guess.
We can make it until the end. Something got my friend. This happened some years back, and I've always been quick to push it off and try and forget about it. But a conversation I had recently inspired me to write my story out so people with more experience of paranormal/supernatural phenomena might tell me what I witnessed, if anything. This all takes place in northwestern Montana during the late autumn of 2009. When I was 17, I moved out of my parents' house and in with a coworker, John, in his trailer. We got along well at work and had been part of the same weekly D&D group for a while. It was actually one of the better roommate situations I've ever had. We became close friends during that time. We were roommates until shortly after I turned 18, and some personal stuff happened with my family. I ended up moving back in with them for a while so I could help them cover some bills. It took about 3 months for that situation to stabilize, and I called John about moving back out there with him. This was the first time I remember feeling something was off. Though it's been so long, I can't remember the details of the conversation. Just a sense of wrongness that lingered for a while after I'd hung up the phone. Either way, John said I was welcome to move back in, which I expected. I waited for a day off, and another friend, Dave, came along to help me move. Dave was another D&D pal from a different group, and we were figuring we'd talk John into a one-shot session or something. So, we loaded up all my stuff and drove out there. What followed was a nightmare.
Ooh, I gotta say, I'm loving all the D&D talk here. A one-shot sesh?
In layman's, what does that mean?
Well, a one-shot sesh is when everybody kind of gets together for like a contained adventure And then, like at the end of the night, it's like, all right, time to go home. Wow, what an adventure! Nice meeting you. Thanks for the Frito scoops, etc.
I like these two guys. I hope they have their one-shot sesh.
I'm sure that's where the whole rest of the story is going, right?
It's just the plot of the one-shot sesh.
If they ever get out D&D one-shot going. So, are you scared?
From the moment John opened the door, everything was wrong. I won't say John was a clean freak, but he tried to maintain his space, and he'd always insisted we clean up for company when I was living with him. I stood there open-mouthed to see the thick layer of dust that coated nearly everything. And the longer I looked around, the worse it got. There was a half-eaten plate of food turned to mold sitting on the table. Both sinks in the kitchen were similarly moldy, and the air in the trailer stank, even beyond what I'd expect for some moldy dishes. It's not what you want to see in the place that you're planning to move into.
No. But, you know, I was a little distracted during this because, you're talking about this creepy environment, but I was just really curious to know what the half-eaten food was. They said half-eaten food.
Yeah.
Was it nachos? It was a rotisserie chicken? Or a candy apple?
For him to point out half-eaten,
Yeah.
I would assume it's something that's delicious, because you'd be like, how could you only eat half of that slice of Zab?
Yeah.
Zabing pizza.
You know, when I used to work in a movie theater, sometimes people would leave half-eaten buckets of popcorn in their seats after the movie was done. And it was my job to go in and clean them up. Sometimes I'd just eat them. It was free.
Fucking gross. It's so gross, dude.
I don't care. It was pretty gross.
I lost my train of thought because I can't
That's good.
think. I can't stop.
I actually had to duck into a corner of the theater where the security cameras couldn't see me but not only was it free, but I was getting paid to eat it.
Goldmine, I guess, for someone like you.
It was.
I was extremely taken aback by the state of the trailer, but the state of my friend was even more shocking. He worked at a bank and had always kept himself clean, but now he looked like a wreck. He'd lost weight. His skin had an unhealthy, waxy look to it. His hair was overgrown and greasy, and his body odor was terrible. His smell is the first thing that made me think there was something really off about the situation. It was almost the sickly sweet smell of something dead, but not quite. I've never smelled anything exactly like it before or since. The way he's describing his friend, this sounds like somebody that's just been in quarantine for a while.
Yeah,
sounds like all of us.
like me currently.
Right now, my skin has an unhealthy, waxy look to it.
Yeah.
Hair overgrown.
I mean,
look at this guy. He looks like homeless
this
Ringo Starr.
He goes on the...
I was prepared for that. Yeah, freestyle. Hey. Oh, I might do it. Stop.
Play some D&D. Maybe a quick one-shot piece of love.
You guys down for one shot? One shot? Yeah, let's do a sesh. At this point during the encounter, I'm at a general level of unease, and I didn't have any desire to go further into the trailer. But John invites us in, and not wanting to be rude, I go in. I start to wonder if something crazy happened while I was away. John wasn't dating anyone, so this wasn't from heartbreak. We'd kept in touch after I first moved out, and even when that fell off a bit, I still heard from our mutual friends about the D&D sessions he was still attending. Regardless, despite having not heard anything about it, obviously something had happened. So, standing there in his dusty living room with Dave, who was shooting me sideways looks the entire time, I asked John if everything is all right. No response. And then, after a long silence, he assures me everything is fine. Just that. He doesn't try to explain the state of his house or anything. Weirder yet, he goes, "You guys can crash out here," and just heads off to the back of the house. I'd always known him to be a diligent host, so this was odd to say the least, although basically nothing was going as I expected. Now comes the part where I'm glad Dave was there. If somebody asks you all right, and they don't say anything, alarming, you know?
Yeah, let me give it a whirl. Hey Ryan, your apartment's looking pretty grimy, man. You all right? Yeah, that's chilly. Pretty chilly. Okay. Well, the bit is The bit is complete. We can resume telling the story now.
If we must.
Okay, good. Thank God. Okay.
To me, this nasty trailer was still my home. I'd lived there for more than a year before my 3-month visit to my parents, and had a sense of belonging in the place which I think made me oblivious to things that were obvious to Dave, such as a layer of undisturbed dust across the entire living room and kitchen floor, except for a thin track from the front door to the hallway leading to the back of the trailer. Whispering to me, Dave says, "Nothing in here has been used for a long time." And looking around, I realize he's right. The TV, the computer, the couch and chairs, the dining room table with its rotting food. John hadn't so much as laid a hand on any of it for a month, possibly longer.
The long track made me think Dave was going to be like, "I think that dude's a slug." You know, like, some. I guess I was imagining like a slime trail.
Yeah, like he just ekes off into the, you guys can crash out here.
I think your friend's a slug, dude.
Dave, almost as if he's sneaking, walks quietly into the kitchen to inspect the fridge. He points out a few thick patches of dust on the flatter surfaces of the fridge, but it's harder to tell here. The fridge's metal handle has some dust, but it isn't collected. Stepping past Dave, I reach out with one finger and pop the fridge open, and was gagging before I'd even opened the door enough to trigger the
Did you say
interior light.
gagging?
Throwing my arm across my face and burying my nose in the crook of my elbow, I open the fridge about halfway. Inside, it's top to bottom rotten food. I step back after a second,
delicious.
turning away and trying to suppress my urge to vomit. At this point, might be a time to take a U-turn and head back on home. Get back to the folks, tell them, look, I was wrong about wanting to move out. I got a pretty good gig here.
I'm just thrown by the top to bottom rotten food in the fridge. He doesn't have like a jar of olives or anything?
I hate olives, though. Well, I find them repulsive.
Well, more for me.
Another thing, too, here, and this one is honestly maybe the most alarming to me. What is this guy living off of? Because clearly he's not eating his food.
Yeah, well, it sounds to me like that's a little jelly bean on the scale for slug theory.
More or less done playing dust detective, I basically shrug off everything up to this
Can we
point.
survive a
Clear
month
some
without
dust
food, I
from the
think?
couch, get my laptop out, and connect to the
Isn't it
Wi-Fi.
3 weeks?
We'd always paid for the
No,
best
that's not
internet
bad.
available.
Whoa, good for you. Who's dropping a Am I the Asshole
I think
post
it's a
on Reddit? I just got to my
story, I'm
friend's
not
house.
sure.
It's covered in garbage, and he's think he's a slug now. Am I the asshole for wanting to leave?
After a while, Dave joins me and we play World of Warcraft for a bit. Eventually, he tells me he'll hang out for tonight because on his ride and taking him back to his place and driving back to the trailer was a 90-minute round trip. To be clear, I would have taken him home anyway. I wouldn't blame anyone for not wanting to hang out in a room with a giant stack of moldy dishes in the sink and a fridge full of rotten food. We play games on the computer for the next few hours, and John never makes a noise. I respect the commitment to the game.
I guess.
That being said, life may not be continuing much further if you keep playing World of Warcraft when there's a swamp out in the hallway.
Yes, very good.
At one point, Dave asks me where the bathroom is. I tell him it's at the far end of the hallway next to John's bedroom. A low level of unease had been present since John first entered the door, and was becoming more apparent the longer we stayed. Normally, I don't lock my friends to the bathroom, but it seemed the right thing to do at the time. So, I lead Dave down the hallway, flipping on the hallway light as we go, the switch covering my fingers in dust. At this point, I was actually starting to get annoyed with all of it. I don't normally have bad seasonal allergies, but all the dust we've been stirring up had my nose itchy and half plugged. So, on my way down the hallway, I start to consider knocking on John's bedroom door to
Oh, this is exactly what I wanted. Be into something just from a commercial.
confront him about the condition of the house. But halfway down the hallway, we see a huge hole in the floor outside the bathroom door. A jagged-edged hole through which you can clearly see the dirt, cobwebs, and shredded black plastic that used to cover insulation. Now, I'm really weirded out. But for some reason, I still point Dave into the bathroom and continue to walk to the end of the hallway where John's room is.
If this is on the trajectory that I think it is, then that's a slug hole. That is a boilerplate slug hole.
That's a slug hole if I've ever seen one.
Now that's a slug hole.
If this was you, I am concerned about you, but I also, at this point, am concerned you're either A, slug person, or B, a zombie. So I might have to just leave and then call the cops and they could deal with it. Because I'm not going to walk in there and now now I'm a zombie or a slug person. You eke at me or something, whatever slugs do.
But you're going to go with zombie over slug?
I'm thinking zombie. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know.
Some sort of pod person?
I'm not staying to find out. Let's just put it that way. I can see there's no light coming from under his door. I wonder briefly if he's asleep. Annoyed, I knock. Loudly. A few seconds pass. Then, I hear a grunt from inside the room. I pop the door open and flip on the light. This is where it really starts to sink in for me how wrong this experience has felt. A cursory glance at the room confirms it's in the same state as the rest of the house. Dust everywhere, except for the crack from the door to the nearest side of the bed. The bed itself was terrible. The blankets and pillows were stained a deep yellow, almost black in places. And then there was John, just laying on his back in his bed, 1,000-yard stare through the ceiling. He didn't even react to me opening the door.
If I'm knocking on someone's door to see if they're doing well in their filthy, filthy home, if they give me in return a, I don't think I'm going in there. Again, this is another juncture where I'm just thinking, well, it sounds like they're going through some stuff. I'm doing it.
Well, first off, I'm not knocking on the door like I'm the 5-0. I'm not banging on that thing annoyed.
You're doing like a shave and a haircut, right? Like a
shave and a haircut? That even might be a little too playful. It's going to be even more just like a, hey, man. And even if I do that and I hear, okay, I'll come back later. In that moment, I forget entirely why I came to talk to John, because looking directly at him, I felt the beginnings of a profound fear, which even at the time seemed like an odd feeling to have in that situation. You see, John was not an intimidating guy, short, baby-faced, and yet, in my gut, I was afraid of him. I don't really know how to explain it. After that quick moment of fear, I quickly mumbled something about how I'd come to say goodnight, and turned off the light and shut the door. I turned around to find Dave kneeling by the hole in the floor. As I struggled to rationalize the primal fear from being in John's presence, Dave points at the edge of the hole and tells me the wood along the edge is twisted upward, as if the hole was made from below. What would do that?
A slug, Ryan. A big
I'm
slug.
Talking like real life, like a very ambitious little beaver.
I mean, I would probably say nothing, but I can't imagine anything doing that. I don't know what the integrity of the trailer. You said it was a trailer. It's usually made out of like metal,
it's like metal, plastic,
wood,
insulation.
Right. So, I guess maybe a tremor from the motion picture Tremors could do it.
A transformer could also probably do this. Like one of those sand snakes.
Or that drill machine that Bebop and Rocksteady use in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Once again, also could do this. There's a lot of things, but I just can't put my finger on what in the real world could make this hole. I kind of came to my senses once we were back in the living room area, and I reopened my laptop. My sudden intense fear of John eased off, and we played games for a few more hours before Dave said he wanted to rest his eyes.
What the fuck was wrong with you, dude?
This is fake. I think it's
fake.
fake.
Doing, bro?
Well, it seems like something subterranean bored into this home. Why don't we relocate to the safety of the living room and play Minecraft for 5 hours?
We shut everything down. I
I'm because a normal person would have
recliner,
loved it already.
and Dave lay down on the couch, positioned so he could see down the hallway. I was too uneasy to sleep. After looking into John's room, I determined I wouldn't be living here after all. As much as I really didn't like living with my parents anymore, it was preferable to whatever John had going on. As the night went on, I'm just waiting for the sun to come up, really starting to wonder why we haven't left already. And then suddenly, Dave's eyes get wide, and he motions with his hand to get my attention. He points towards the hallway, and I turn my head slowly in the recliner to look. After perhaps 15 or so seconds of staring hard into the darkened hallway, I hear a slight creak from the darkness. A little while passes. Both of our eyes remain glued to the dark hallway. We hear a few more creaks. And then, out of the darkness, John's shadowy silhouette slowly emerges. And now, he's just standing at the edge of the hallway, staring into the dark. That deep sense of primal fear builds in me again. The only thing I could compare it to is once when out hiking alone. I ran right into a bear going the opposite way on the trail. I feel like making this clear is paramount. Seeing John lurking in the darkness of that hallway inspired in me a state of fear so powerful, I feel I have no choice but to look for unconventional answers as to what happened to my friend. Because the only thing comparable to that gut feeling of dread that my short, baby-faced friend created in me was the time I ran into one of the largest terrestrial predators on the planet. What's the right play in this situation, if you're the narrator? Because
I'd be like, all right, good hang.
I'm not saying shit. I'm just.
Thanks for the Tostitos.
My thought is if I become furniture, he won't see me. He'll just. If I become so still, perhaps he won't even see that I'm there.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, this guy doesn't seem like he's moving around too much. So I'd probably just go.
You ever try to get out of a recliner quickly? It's tough because your feet are up, and when you have to do that, the momentum carries you forward. By the time you're already on the ground, he's already sliming you. There was something wrong and dangerous going on that I can't justify analytically. But my instincts told me I was in danger in a way I'd never been prepared for. We lay there in silence while he silently stood in the hallway for hours, hoping that our own silence would keep him from approaching further. Eventually, he crept back down the hallway to his bedroom. Seeing an opportunity, we quietly and quickly got our shit together, sneaked out to my car, and left.
Great. Good job.
At that point, I'm feeling like I can't believe that worked.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't seem like he's eaten a long time, so he probably doesn't have a lot of fuel in the tank. I don't think he's like chasing after anybody.
If someone's possessed, though, well, you don't know this, you don't believe this, but if someone's possessed, they could have the strength of, that's 10 times their capability. Like Annalise Michelle squeezing that apple with one hand.
Yeah, but I don't think this guy is squeezing any apples.
Right,
it sounds like he's mostly concerned with pooping the bed over and over.
After the event, I did a little bit of digging, talked to mutual friends, and drove out to John's parents' place to talk to them. But it dead ends everywhere. Apparently, he left town. I even spoke to a friend of mine who's an officer about a welfare check, but as I didn't know where he went, they couldn't really do much. His parents left town too, and no one that I know has seen or heard from John since. I've mostly tried to forget it all happened. Of course, there are possible explanations to his strange behavior. Perhaps a psychotic break, or maybe drugs. It occurred to me more recently that I should have considered the fact that he might have been seriously ill. But I honestly believe none of these are the answer. I realized nothing overtly paranormal took place, but my gut tells me that something well out of the ordinary was taking place.
That could be true.
He had an inhuman presence, akin to a predator. I've wondered about possessions or doppelgangers and all kinds of things. Something tells me I wasn't dealing with the guy I had lived with at that point. It felt like a different being altogether. I'm torn between wishing I'd investigated more thoroughly at the time and being glad I stayed clear of whatever was going on after my brief brush with it. I don't know what he was after. I don't even know if he knew we saw him in the dark. But I think our being awake prevented something truly awful from happening. And yet, it's a big question mark, really. If you don't believe me, I don't blame you. So, are you scared? Let's see if this is a real story. Something Got My Friend was posted by an anonymous user to the Truth Is Here subreddit, and it is a true story.
No, I don't believe it. No.
Wait a second.
Here's the thing. No.
I don't know, man. I mean, look, if it was a fake story, you would think there'd be a bigger bang at the end.
Yeah.
That's true.
I don't know.
It's a fun yarn, but, you know the thing where you watch like a horror movie and you're frustrated because the people are just making the wrong decisions?
Yes.
This was that, but like the entire story.
It seems like on this Reddit, there's a lot of comments of people who obviously believe this is a true story, and there's part of me that believes that too. That this could have been like this guy got out of control with drugs, or it was a mental health thing. But once again, I just keep going back to that hole and the lack of nutrition.
I mean, it could have been Grubhub and some Happy Meals or something.
Yeah, sure, it's possible. Either way, I'm creeped out. That was unsettling. Yeah. I'm looking forward to drinking water from my fresh, clean Brita in my fridge. Not sponsored by Brita. Good night.
Don't let the slug man bite.
Once again, subscribe to The Watcher. I love them two guys. They funny. And they have another channel, which I don't quite remember right now. But we're going to be doing some reactions to that channel as well. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And it's time to wolf on out of here. Country style. I think I'm going to post this tomorrow morning. I'm too tired to post it right now. See you when I see you. Peace.